قودنا نتذكر انه الكلام مش عن الابن الصغير، هو عن الابن الكبير. يسوع قال المثل للفريسيين والكتبة اللي اضطهدوا.
Hamas, and thank you for the question. You want how to answer. I think we need first of all stop being defensive, as if speaking about Palestine is speaking about Hamas, or about as if everything I say now is an endorsement or justification of violence. None of us justifies violence or killing of children. It's really interesting that whenever people ask about Hamas, and this one you don't be defensive, but we need to push back. No one asks, what about Netanyahu and Ben Gvir and Smotrich? They hold a very extreme ideology and they translated it into a genocide. Why isn't anybody asking about it? You know, when people use the word terrorism, and I'm sorry to be a bit radical and controversial, who's a terrorist? Who decides that? Who decides? You know, Nelson Mandela, by the way, was a terrorist. So was Martin Luther King. So who decides? My comment about allowing the Western world to sit on the top of the, you know, hierarchy of morality and decide this guy is so, this guy is so. So if you're wearing a suit and a tie and push a button and kill 200 people, you're not a terrorist because you're wearing a suit and a tie. So who decides? And again, we allowed those definitions to dictate and determine the discourse. Let us remember that before Hamas existed, Palestinians were resisting and resisting with arms, not just non-violent. The vast majority of Palestinian resistance is non-violent, by the way. No one cares. When Palestinians use armed resistance, so that's the hypocrisy. It's as if you don't have a problem with it. And let's remember that years before Hamas, Palestinians were resisting. The secular branches, the communists, even today, many who are resisting with armed resistance. And so here's my point: as long as there is an occupation and oppression, people will resist. Some of us will resist non-violently, that's what we believe in. Others will resist in arms. But the discourse tries to always portray the actions of whether it's Hamas or others as hateful anti-Semitic attacks, rather than seeing them within the wider context of them. And it's really important, you know, in the book I talk about a quote from the former head of the Israeli Shabak, that's the Israeli intelligence, the highest maybe security institution in Israel, who said that if he was born in Gaza, he would join Hamas. Is he an anti-Semite or is he, you know? His message was very clear: we need to get to the core of the issue. And it shocks me that even the Israelis know this. But somehow here everyone keeps as if, you know. And so we need to push back on this discourse. And we really need to push back on those who ask about what about October 7th. Don't defend. Push back. Here's why. Where were you for 75 years before October 7th? If you did not protest the killing of children for 75 years there, you have no right to even open your mouth about October 7th. See what I mean? Because you were silent. And all of a sudden now you remember the humanity, and if you were outraged by the kidnapping of children, our children have been kidnapped, continuously kidnapped for years. While I was in the store, a child was killed in Israeli detention. No one talked about that. Why? Are we less human? Do you know that 14,000 Palestinians are currently kidnapped? Why isn't anybody talking about it? So push back. Show the hypocrisy. And I believe behind that hypocrisy is racism. We need to stop being as if apologetic. But really show what's at the core of these arguments. How is the destruction of hospitals? You know, show him the destruction of the last hospital, the only hospital that treats cancer patients. Just last week, 18 months into the genocide, you destroy demolished, not from a missile. So you cannot say, they threw something, they hit a missile and we hit back. No, you planted bombs and you demolished the hospital. That's a response to October 7. The amount of dehumanization in those accusations must be called out. The amount of racism. Hamas is hiding behind civilians. If a serial killer in New York escapes, hides in a school, kidnaps 100 children, are you okay with destroying the children and the school and killing everyone so that we kill that serial killer? Are you okay with that? You're okay with that if we're talking about animals, not human beings? I hope you get my point. We cannot only, be defensive. We condemn this and we condemn that. No, people should know where we stand by now. We're against every killing. All lives are precious equally. That's our values. And when people call us about October 7, show the hypocrisy and racism. Where were you for 75 years? I hope that helps.